So here we are back with the Zyklus MPS. In the last video, I showed some of the trigger profile keys. This is this group of keys over here primarily, which alter what happens when you fire off a sequence from the blue keys. For example, the momentary key makes the sequence run just while you press down the key, as opposed to switching it on and switching it off. There's a group of keys up here which are concerned with timing. So for example, relative quantization forces a new sequence to be aligned to the nearest 8th or 16th note to what's already running. Another key called restart will restart all the sequences when you trigger a new one. Yet another one called align will forces all the sequences into alignment with each other, and when you trigger one, it comes in wherever it is relative to the others in the middle. It makes it like a sort of unmuting process. These are kind of bread and butter, not terribly exciting, no need for me to show them, but let me show you what I think is great fun, absolutely my favorite feature of the Zyklus MPS, which is external triggering. So I'm going to trigger sequences from an external music keyboard. First of all, let me show you what I'll use. There's one sequence. Very simple, just the note C in different octaves. Another one similar. And yet another. So I can switch on external trigger, arm a sequence, and then hit a note. And it takes the transposition and the velocity. If I play very quietly, it's quiet, and that's louder. I can play a chord. And so on and so on. So it takes all the pitches that are in the sequence and it sort of multiplies them, if you like, with the keys that you play on the keyboard. Sometimes you get a lot of notes from that, often too many, but it's kind of fun to explore and find out what you could do with your sequences. I particularly like to trigger different sequences from different pitches. So for example, if I arm the first one here and then trigger it from a low note, let's trigger this from an octave higher. Couple of notes to trigger that one. Let's trigger this one from a really low note. And now I'm going to transpose the whole thing, and I'm also going to arm the sequence so that when I transpose it, it also fires off a new sequence. And so on and so on. You can build up layers, triggering things in all kinds of different ways from the keyboard. I'll show one more example of this. What I'm going to do is it's a bit complicated. It's a bit of a complex setup here, but I've got 3 versions of the same sequence patched out to different sounds, and I'm going to fire them off from the keyboard at different times relative to each other from different pitches. So simple sequence. Let's try that with some bass first of all. Let's put in a low bass here. Back to what I had before. Now let's do it. So lots of fun. You can experiment with your ideas in lots of ways, transposing them, playing them against each other, getting lots of complex polyphony happening. And then yet another thing that's kind of fun is to trigger drum tracks in this way. So I've got a drum track here. I'll trigger that from the keyboard first. But what I'll do is I'll set up 3 drum tracks and I'll transpose them in different ways, again cycling through them, so the pitches are being assigned to different drum tracks in different ways. First of all, let me start from the first one. So here we go. Now I'll start transposing. And I can come back to the original assignment by hitting the note C again. Lots of fun, lots of ways to experiment with the sounds.